Good evening. How you doing? It's your boy DMac, Mike Sanford, expected to join us here shortly as it's Altitude After Dark on a interesting Sunday, that's for sure. Disappointment for the Buffs, of course, as things just didn't go the way they needed to go. Just a flat performance by the Avalanche as they now shuffle off to Buffalo. And speaking of Buffalo, we've got our eyes on the Bills and the Niners right now. The Bills are punting up 21-3 in the third quarter, basically killing the 49ers. And disappointingly, our guy, Christian McCaffrey, goes out with some sort of injury, and he's been struggling with things all year. And he was playing great, running great. So sorry to see it. Hard to imagine San Francisco is going to get any mojo going in this one with the Buffalo Bills up by 3 possessions. So we'll hang in there and see, but we're here to talk about your Broncos and your Buffs and your local Denver teams, of course. So whatever you want to jump in on the comments, we'd appreciate it. We'll get to all of it. So let's go. Let's rock and roll, and we'll hear from Sean Payne about playing on Monday night here in a second. Your 401k is likely one of your most important financial plans, but it's only part of a comprehensive financial strategy. Edward Jones can help you understand how your retirement assets fit into your entire retirement picture so you can work toward meeting your unique retirement goals. Contact Beau Smith, your Colorado Edward Jones financial advisor at 303-758-8500 or visit edwardjones.com/Beau-Smith. That's BEAU-Smith. Edward Jones, member SIPC. When we look at the games, there's my guy, Coacher. Good to see you, pal.
How we doing, pal?
Congratulations to your Boise State, whatever. What are they? Potato chips? What are the Boise State Cowboys? What are the Blue Turfers? What are Boise? I don't know.
Put some respect on that name, DMac. You guys had a cute little Syracuse Orange upset win over a terrible Miami team, but yes, some of us are actually still very much alive for a college football playoff berth. So that's one thing I know is that on Friday night on the beautiful blue turf, the Boise State Broncos put some respect on that mascot.
That's right.
And you can go ahead and watch the best running back in the last 2 decades play. So tune in on Friday night.
We'll get to all the college stuff in a second, but yeah, sure, why not? You love Boise State. You still do a lot of stuff with Boise State. So, it's not like CSU, which finished with a win and had a really great season. Great season. Congratulations to Colorado State. Asunder. Golly, man. I guess we can talk about college now for a second. We'll get to
real quick. You'd like this, DMac. Yeah, because you've been following the Denver Broncos for a long time.
Yeah.
So I did a little staycation with the family, and after dropped my parents off at the airport, and so we did the Gaylord. It's turned into a bit of a family tradition. We do the ice and stay at the hotel, and because I used to travel about 3 months of the year, truly like 3 months of the year was in hotels when I was recruiting a bunch. I have great points and status and all the things with Marriott properties, which Gaylord is one of those.
Oh, very
so
nice.
We're there, and I run into a former teammate of mine at Boise State, a guy that I hadn't seen since my 5th year in 2004, which happened to be his redshirt year in 2004, and that was Ryan Clady. And had a chance to spend. It was really fun, man. First of all, thought I was crazy when I went up there. Like, who is this freaking guy? And of course, like it started kind of chipping away at some of the, oh yeah, of course, man. So it was really fun to see him. He's got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful kids, and it was just a lot of fun to catch up with.
Does he live in Colorado?
He does it. It's an interesting deal. They're just traveling the world. He and his wife and their kids, and kind of their kids are young enough where I don't think they're of the kind of grade school variety age. But they came back for this extended long weekend because I think Clady has some involvement in tomorrow's festivities. Tomorrow night's Monday night festivities. I'm not sure exactly what he's a man of few words, as you know from covering him. But
I do.
He's like, yeah, we came back for this game. I guess they wanted us back, or something like that. It was pretty good. But just a really good dude, and funny story on him. When I was at Boise State, we were not nationally relevant at all, like truly at all. And so I was recruited there. It was kind of like getting recruited in UNC, here in Colorado at the time. It was pretty fresh off being an FCS school. And so we would get recruits, and everybody kind of looked like, oh, that guy's a good football player. Yeah, that guy's a good football player. My 5th year, this dude walks in the very first time, and I've been around high-level college football with my dad coaching at SC and Notre Dame. Yeah. And I looked at all my teammates. I'm like, hey, we've never gotten a guy like that here. That guy's an NFL offensive
I actually don't even know the story, like why Ryan ended up at Boise State.
Late developer, just one of those guys. Yeah, just a late developer, and Boise State was one of. I think he had a couple like fringe power, at the time. I don't even know what they call it, BCS type level schools. But like you're talking more probably Oregon State, those types of programs, not the high like the USC, UCLA. He's from Rialto Eisenhower High School in the Inland Empire of California. But it was really fun to see him. And man, I'll say this was a really, really fun 5-6 days of football. And I'm watching this snow globe right now. And the Bills are so fun to watch, man. They just are. They're just a blast. The fan base, the team, it's a lot of fun. And I'm sitting there like, man, what a great week it's been of football. And then I'm like,
well, all right.
I get to be here tomorrow night at Monday Night Football.
Have you ever been to a Monday Night NFL game?
I went to one last year, man. So my wife and I decided to go visit Jordan Love, and there was an away game at MetLife Stadium, and it was Packers. It was before the Packers kind of turned their season around, but it was Packers versus the Giants, and it was Tommy Cutlets. It was the official coming out party of Syracuse's own Tommy DeVito, and the Giants won that game. So,
all right, well. Let's go to college first. Let's pause on the NFL. There's so many games, man. It's so let's go through our local teams. CU destroys Oklahoma State. Might be the worst offense I've ever seen in college football. Oklahoma State. I mean,
defense too.
Yeah, I know they were down like a lot of guys, but they like couldn't catch a screen pass. I mean, like they couldn't do anything. So there's that, I guess. Just assess to me how you think CU played, and a little flat in the second quarter. Yeah, well, Prime chewed them out at halftime.
Yeah.
Probably rightfully so.
Yeah, it was at the end of the day. You can look at it. There was a lull, but it's hard to be too critical as a fan. Certainly, being a coach is different. I'll give it from the coach's perspective. You hit a little bit of a lull. You were probably trying to get a little. The players were trying to get a little cute with. Different things here and there in the second quarter, once the game was already 21-0 early, and you didn't play your style of football that you've been playing predominantly through most of the season. But it was a Travis Hunter exclamation point game. It was. I'm a Boise State alum. My heart is telling me, and my head is telling me if I had a Heisman vote, I'd vote for, out of a place of bias, I'd vote for Ashton Genty. But I truly believe that the race is over, and I think it's going to go to Travis Hunter. And I think that it was an exclamation point type of performance against Oklahoma State. Yeah, I mean, if there were any doubts left, and do you have any problems with CU trying to put those exclamation points up 45-0? None whatsoever. I mean, it's football, man. Like I've always been on the other side. What's funny is I was thinking about some of these score lines this weekend. Purdue losing to Indiana 66-0. Oklahoma State, who was by many people was favored to win the Big 12 conference, goes 0-9 and gets beat 50. Was it 52 or 59? 52. It was 52-0. I went back and I thought about like the worst losses I've been associated with as a coach. Like, have I ever had a 66-0 loss or 52-0? I feel like the worst ass whooping I've ever been in charge of or had my hand in the cookie jar as a coach was the final game against Utah. And we played Utah, who won the Pac-12 championship that year in 2022, beat SC with Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner. They were unbelievable. And the game was over in the middle of the first quarter. But I look back at the final score, and I could be wrong, but it was like 60 something to 28. And we were down. We fought our asses off to just find some semblance of respectability. And I'm like, how does it gotten to the point where Indiana, who is a dog crap program for decades, beats Purdue, who's been very competitive under Jeff Brom? How does it switch that quickly to where you're getting beat 66-0? That is crazy to me. I can't wrap my mind around it. I think some of those last games of the year, the Thanksgiving thing, I mean, when teams just know their season's over, their careers are over, I think they can get a little goofy. They can get a little silly for a lot. I think the CU players got that way, frankly, up 21-0. I think they just kind of stopped playing
in the second quarter. And then, they turned it on. And of course, they're just so much better. And it really feels like a shame. And listen, man, I don't know, man. I was going with like, hey, 2 of the 3 teams got to lose. And so Arizona State wins. And then Kansas State
Houston,
won.
BYU. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so they're out. And then we're, hey, you dumbass. No, because like Tech and West Virginia and TCU and Cincinnati. And I was like, weird. What the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, you idiot. What are you, moron? What are you, stupid? Like, they can get in if Houston beats BYU. And I'm like, okay, I guess. And then that was just, I don't know. There were moments where BYU played a little bit loose, but, they had a lot to – well, no, they didn't have a lot to play for. They were already eliminated before that game that even started. That's right.
You know what's wild about just the webs that are so entangled in the world of college football? Like for me personally, obviously CU is a team that I was a part of for 1 year. It's not something I was a part of for 2 decades, but it was an emotional year, obviously for a lot of reasons. And so I love that program. I love the people that are still there. Coach Prime treated me great in my week that I was still in the building without knowing if I was going to be a part of the plans or not, even though I knew, I know how the college football and just football industry works. So I root for CU, and this year in particular. Last year, I think it was a bit raw, right? I'd been fired. Like, it is what it is. Like, I wasn't like, treated like crap by Coach Prime and anybody there whatsoever, but I was fired. This year, it's like, man, I'm enjoying really good football. I'm enjoying watching 2 of the best players, certainly in college football, that exist in Shedeur and Travis Hunter. But then I also have this Boise State thing going on right now, obviously with Ashton Jeanty, alluded to that. Then you add a third element to it, and Anne Marie Sanford, my wife, who know is she's a strong cookie now. Her brother is the quarterback coach at BYU. So it's like there's so many different things. And if you know the insides of college football and particularly the coaching world and what goes into it, BYU was like picked in the bottom 4 in the conference this year. Had a bad first year in the Big 12 a year ago. And so this season, when the year started, I mean, my brother-in-law, we got together over the summer. He said it. We got to go to a bowl game. We're getting fired. Like,
wow.
He flat out said that. So yeah, I root really hard for my brother-in-law. It's freaking blood. It's certainly my wife's blood. And so my brother-in-law was my quarterback coach at Western Kentucky and was a GA for me at Notre Dame. A little Nepo baby action there at the time, but he's gone off and done his own thing. And so like I'm on Twitter and I see all these CU people obviously rooting hard for Houston to get in the CF or to get into the Big 12 championship. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there like, what? Like my brother-in-law is coaching the other team and they're playing like dog crap. They keep fumbling the ball when they're about to put the game away. And it was just one of those wild nights of just like trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And college football is a world that just very easily entangles us into a lot of different webs.
Well, I'll tell you what was crazy for me being a Syracuse guy. And I was at Syracuse when Syracuse football was really good with Don McPherson. And then it was Marvin Graves and it kind of went from there. And Donovan McNabb, all that time. There was a moment where Syracuse football was the real deal. I mean, my freshman year, they went undefeated and played in the Sugar Bowl and ended up Pat Dye, who we call Pat Ty from Auburn, actually went for a field goal instead of a touchdown. And it ended up tying. Like, can you imagine going for a tie in a bowl game? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the point? But that actually happened. That stopped Syracuse from going undefeated with wins. That is, they had a tie, which is crazy. That being said, it feels like Fran Brown really has that team back. And there was a fun moment with Kyle McCord, who was at Ohio State, and he was really successful at Ohio State, and they told him to, pound rocks and get out of there. He goes to Syracuse, and Ohio State ends up losing to Michigan for the 4th year in a row. And Syracuse pulls off an unbelievable comeback. They were down 21-0. And unfortunately, they got schooled by Pittsburgh. They lost to Boston College, and they allowed a terrible comeback win from Stanford, which they shouldn't have, or they would have had a much better looking season.
Yeah.
But you're right about Miami. They are the Kansas City Chiefs of college football. Like, they just got got lucky all throughout.
The big difference is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have won it and have already shown that they can play terrible regular season football and win it again in the postseason. Whereas you can't say that at all with Cam Ward, and certainly not with Mario Cristobal.
Well, whatever you want to say. My point is, they got lucky for a lot of their wins.
Oh yeah, I mean they were playing on borrowed time, man.
That's what I meant more than anything. And I don't know, man. I just can't imagine a team taking Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders.
It's not going to happen.
Right?
It's not going to happen.
I mean, it's silly, right?
It's not going to happen. Like anybody who says it, it's just flat out not going to happen.
Okay, so I'm checking that I'm not crazy or biased here. It's not close, right?
I do think like franchise fit is going to matter for Shedeur, but I think the same thing's going to matter for Cam Ward. Like it's not like man, like because Shedeur's play style is very creative, very unique. You do have to take some of the NFL criticism. They're gonna tear him apart. That's what happens every year, right? Is people tear apart the lead candidates in a quarterback class, and this one's already being talked about as a not quite the quarterback class that certainly last year was, right? And that's by all accounts that's true.
Right.
But he's going to get torn apart. It's going to piss off his father, which is going to be fun to watch. Not fun to watch. It'll be entertaining just to hear the press conferences or the tweets that are going to happen, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to talk about the amount of sacks he takes and how he holds onto the football. Can you do that against elite athletes? I'm of the accord that yes, he will be able to, because you got to trust the tape. And I believe that if you can get it done at the Power 4 level, then you can get it done in the National Football League. And Shedeur is intelligent enough, certainly, to be able to adapt his play style to make sure he doesn't take 6, 7, 8, 9 sacks every game. Not that he has in college, but there have been some that would be examples of why people will tear him apart. With that being said, like I think that his greatest trait is what he does on the second play. He's an elite second play player, a little bit like Caleb Williams was, and can make creative throws by extending the play and letting all the second routes happen, which are basically, it's backyard football in a sense. And I think that a franchise is going to have to make sure that they are signed up for that play style and then put the right coordinator around him for him to be optimized. And so it's going to be like, I think the Raiders are that type of franchise. I think if the Cowboys, I don't know what's going to happen with them. They might start winning, but if the Cowboys are in that spot, I do think Jerry Jones himself would be like, yeah, I'm down for it. I want to light up the scoreboard and win football games. But I don't see with the Giants, really, frankly, with either quarterback. I think the Giants might kick the tires on a trade or something. One of these
really
could be like a Sam Darnold situation. Who knows?
Okay, that'd be crazy.
I mean, who knows?
Okay. Well, you know how I feel, man. I mean, like if you don't have one, you got to draft one. You can't choose when you suck, meaning you can't choose what year is a good year for quarterbacks or not. It's your bad shit luck, I suppose, if it's not working your way. And you gotta get a little lucky. I mean, that's just the way it matters. Goes.
And you would agree with that? I mean, with the quarterback position,
I absolutely do. But I'd also say, like I just said, like you sometimes. You can't wait till next year. It's ridiculous. You don't know the next year will be any better or 2 years will be any better. And you have no idea if you're going to be in the position to do it. So it's kind of a moot point. That's why hey man, like the Broncos with Bo Nix, you want to talk about catching basically an unbelievably lucky break that he would that he would go that late and you did not move up. And I'm a big believer, coach, of moving up to get your guy. Like the fact that Broncos didn't do anything and Bo just fell to them, I give him a lot of credit for reading the draft the right way, but boy, oh boy, is that a lucky sort of break that nobody moved ahead of the Broncos, and the Falcons wanted Penix more than Bo Nix, and Penix might turn out to be great. And we see Kirk Cousins.
He's going to be starting here pretty soon after what Kirk Cousins has been doing.
He just threw 4 interceptions today. You drafted him. I mean,
the Falcons are. It's so funny at the Broncos. If you look at the schedule this year, they've for all intents and purposes like ended seasons for teams. They ended the Raiders season. There was a little bit of hope for the Raiders. They without question broke the New York Jets as a franchise, and then it's happening now with the Falcons. You expose some things in the Falcons, and all of a sudden, man, the wheels have just completely fallen off for that franchise, and they're probably not going to be a playoff team. It's going to be the Bucks. It'll be Tampa.
Hey, just a heads up, and I missed it. Something goofy happened. Josh Allen caught a touchdown pass on a pass he threw. So wait, you know what? Hey man, let's see if I can go back on this bad boy just a little bit to see what that was. He's the fourth quarterback in NFL history to score or to catch a touchdown pass that he threw. Let's see if I'm any good here with my rewinding. I got to see that. Oh, I'm too far back. All right. If I catch it, I catch it. I'll tell you about it if I can see it coming up here. All right. Well, hold on. As long as I'm talking about it, right?
Yeah, I'm pulling up my TV now too.
All right. Are the Bills the best team in the NFL right now? Or is it the Detroit Lions? All right, I think I got it. It's a 4th and 2 at the 25-yard line of the Niners. 4th and 2, what's he do? All right, so it's not that play. That would be way too far away, right? So they get the ball down to like the 5-yard line. All right, let's see here. Oh, something goofy happened there. I don't know what that is. I missed it. Sorry to put the brakes on everything like this.
28-3, man. Yeah, I got it right here.
You got it?
It was the 27th and 28th point, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there. I think I have it right here.
All right, so I think I got it too. I'm just gonna keep it going here because it's about to happen one way or the other.
So he obviously didn't catch it. He caught it behind the line of scrimmage, then ran it in. Obviously.
Well, right. What other option would it be? But that's just a quirky play.
I mean, there are. I guess.
All right, 1st and goal. Oh, it was a backward lateral to him. So he threw a little inside slant. It went for like 2 yards, and
it's hooking lateral.
Yeah, but that's a totally made up play there, bro. There's no way that's an actual play. Do you think? Well,
I wouldn't think so, man. I mean, that looks like. Now you want to talk about the definition of the creative second? I'm watching right now too. It was like a quick slant, and I don't know if Josh Allen just followed it. I mean, I truly
boom. I'm tackled.
I've never seen a slant lateral, but it looked like the intent of the play, man. The way they're celebrating.
I'm dying to know. I'm dying.
Slant.
Yeah. Oh, look at Allen, man.
Oh, I think they're just playing ball, man.
I think they're just playing ball in the snow.
They're up 21-3, you know?
I mean, quarterbacks are coached to follow the ball, right? That's one of the things you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't say like when you watch the game tomorrow night, I'll be sitting next to you. I mean, I don't think Bo Nix throws a slant and runs to the football. I mean, you got an offensive line typically in front of you. You got linebackers. I mean, as a quarterback, the number one thing you're supposed to do is protect yourself after you throw a pass.
Right.
This was improv football, man. The way that, golly. And how about the athleticism to stretch the ball on the pylon too?
Yeah, like 6'4". Yeah.
This dude's unbelievable, man.
6'4", 6'5", 235. Guy's a house. Greatest mistake ever, according to John Elway, as a GM. According to John Elway. That's what John Elway said about it. All right. Anyways, let's get to our Monday night game. Then we'll go through the rest of the NFL. We appreciate everybody watching here. Sean Payton about playing on Monday night.
Yeah, good. We've got depth there. He, Mathis, a number of those guys. They've played a lot, so those guys have done well.
Playing on Monday Night Football and how much opportunity. What do you tell them about playing in a big stage and kind of embracing it?
I think it's still the process leading up to it. It kind of goes back to if this is, where you want to go, then these opportunities come up. I know much was made about the flex game. That made a lot of sense for a number of reasons, just strategically. There's a team there's a team that was in that game that we're going to play the next week. So, I would say I haven't talked a whole lot about
the most overrated school.
Monday night. I gave Sutton a hard time. There's been a couple telecasts where they didn't know his name or pronounced it wrong. I said, this group will have your name right. So you get...
All right, that's the fluid verbiage of Sean Payton. Man, he is hard to listen to, isn't he? He He gets one way.
Get some other things done sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. I was making sure I was tweeting out our show, to get some more people to join us. Yeah, so it was great. What I did here is Riley Moss, we know, is not playing. That's
right.
I think a big loss against a team like the Browns that are gonna have good weather. And Jameis Winston likes to uncork the football down the field.
Okay.
And a team that plays a ton of man coverage. If you don't have a corner or corners that have been playing a ton, it's a bit like there's some ring rust at the position, I think, especially when you're playing man as much man coverage as you do. And so Jameis Winston's the type of guy that has arm talent to be able to really push the ball down the field. And so I like Levi Wallace. I watched him in training camp. It was a real competition between he and Riley Moss. He's experienced. He's played a lot. I think Damari Mathis is an absolute freak physically that has had struggles playing the football when it's in the air, ball skill wise. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about this game period, DMac. I'm concerned about this game period because if Jameis Winston gets a hot hand and the Browns defense is able to be disruptive, they're the third most. They play the third most man-to-man press coverage of any team in the National Football League. And to this point, I still think that's the quote-unquote Achilles heel of this Denver Broncos offense. You don't have elite separators against man-to-man coverage. The analytics will tell you they've gotten tons of separation, the top 10 in the league, but they've also seen a ton of zone coverage. The entire NFC South was playing soft zone coverage. I don't know why. They do. It's why they all suck. But I have my concerns about getting open and then tight window throws. In this case, I think if Bo Nix plays great in this game, I know it's the Browns. The record's not great. I think this is a true statement game, maybe more than the Raiders game was, the loss to the Chiefs was. I think that this is a team that's trending, and you're catching them at a tough time.
Yeah, I don't say the whole must-win thing. I say, expected and unexpected wins, and this is an expected win, but not an easy win. That's for sure. But if you want to make the playoffs, you have to win your expected win games, and this is one of them. However, some things really went well for the Broncos in terms of just making the playoffs, and we can go through the scoreboard to sort of explain why. Right now, actually, San Fran did score a touchdown, so it's the Bills 28-10, and this game has nothing to do with nothing except for, is it the Bills, the number one seed, or the Chiefs? And that may factor into who you play. You don't want to play Buffalo. You don't. I would so much rather play the Chiefs than Buffalo and Buffalo, coach. Seriously. That to me is the worst nightmare game for the Broncos. I think you can beat the Chiefs. I think it's impossible to beat the Bills in Buffalo. So my 2 cents.
I would take, to this day, and I'll take this to my grave, I would take the postseason Bills in any state. I would take playing against them against playing the postseason Chiefs, because they're two different teams. In both instances, the regular season is proven to lie to you about the Chiefs. And they're 11-1 and they suck.
They're 11-1. They suck.
And they suck. They're terrible. Just let's reevaluate it in the postseason.
Chargers beat the Falcons 17-13. I mean, the Falcons, I don't know, man, because they can still win their division. So you don't bench Kirk Cousins. But he had a terrible day today, throwing
3 in a row. Picks. 3 really bad games in a row.
And 13 points. But are you benching him for Penix? You easily could still win your division?
I would say the pressure, like I'm talking immense pressure. I'm huge on Falcons Twitter. I'm just kidding, I'm not. But I have seen a good amount. There's a lot of pressure right now to put in the Pen 15 club, Michael Penix, to drop.
I got it, but like you're in first place in your division, bro. I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it. But don't forget, the Broncos won the AFC West at one point with Tim Tebow and an 8-8 record, and beat the Steelers. I mean, and they got smoked by the Patriots. But I mean, that literally did happen. All right, let me go through some of these other scores. Chargers, by the way.
I wanted to talk about the Chargers.
Well, let's go, because the Chargers are now 8-4. And it wasn't like a great game, but it was good enough.
Right. I just think that, man, think about the 8-4 Los Angeles Chargers right now. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's done an incredible job.
He's an
incredible job. And Justin Herbert, like, there's games where he doesn't have his like A game wow stuff, but dude, he's just finding ways to win football games. And that defense, the Chargers defense, they are good. They are really good. And they've had a couple uneven second halves where they had leads, but I mean, they're playing at a really, really impressive clip. I mean, that game I still think is going to be so important, not for the making the playoffs, but for the Broncos to say like, all right, we're fighting for the next man up in this division. And I think that's going to matter.
Then we go, and listen, it's going to be tricky to catch the Chargers, but there's another development. We'll get to it in a second. Hey, Russell Wilson, I just got to give it to you, bro. You're 5-1 as a starter. You threw for 414 yards, 3 touchdowns. You beat the Bengals. My hat's off to Russell Wilson. I don't know what else to say. I'd just be a petty jerk if I was angry at Russ now and not happy for the dude. The dude's balling out. He's balling out. It's incredible.
Yeah, nature versus nurture. It matters. Just like a nature versus nurture matters with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. That's his guy. You said it all along. There's organizational buy-in from top to bottom on Bo Nix. That's what's happening right now in Pittsburgh, and it's a great fit for him. And the best thing for Russ is that I thought he was the perfect quarterback to play in Pittsburgh because of the defense is so damn good. And you're going to be able to make some off-schedule plays and some red zone kind of trick 'em dick 'em type plays that Russ makes to win football games 13-10. But now Russ is showing that he can go high flying and score points like he used to 5-7 years ago. And so that's a good development for that organization. Pittsburgh's they're a legit team, man.
And good for the Broncos that the Bengals lost to. Their season's falling apart. Their defense sucks. Terrible. And that's why I think the Broncos have a great chance even in Cincinnati. Not that Joe Burrow sucks. He doesn't. He's great. Burrow is great.
All the yards.
Yeah, man.
Still a fantasy football legend, even this year with the record.
But their defense is
It's crazy how it's gotten so bad too, because Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, like he was like he was the toast of football like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And now they're just giving up 40s. I mean, on a pretty consistent basis.
Meanwhile, Miami, they're afraid of the Colts, so they lose earlier, so whatever. And then the Colts,
scary,
going for 2 with less than a minute to go. I love it. I thought it was great. And that game is going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. The Broncos had this Monday nighter bye week, that home game against the Colts. Anthony Richardson looks a lot better now, a lot better. And I get it. It's the Patriots and the Patriots suck and all that. Although I think Drake May's playing better. That Colts team with Anthony Richardson is going to be a bit of a challenge, and they're fighting hard. So that was a bit of a bummer because they're just a game behind the Broncos. But, the Broncos will have destiny in their own hands, Coach. I mean, here you go. This is a team you got to beat. You're playing them at home. There we go.
This Cleveland game, man, it is so big, DMac. It is so big.
Absolutely.
It's so big, and I'll just keep saying it. I'm worried. I'm worried.
Okay, that's fair.
And I'm worried. I think the Broncos are the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at a 17-week sample size of a season, but the NFL is the NFL, man. Right? It's a weird league. There's weird games. The same Pittsburgh Steelers that are 10-2 now. Was that the record? 10-2?
9-3.
9-3. They lost this team. And you would have thought that a complete snow game would have favored the extremely physical ground and pound attack of the Steelers and a defense that plays great. Yeah. Dude, the freaking Browns found a way. And then you know what happens on a football team? Even if you're playing for maybe nothing,
mm-hmm.
but if you find life, and it is contagious. And that was a Thursday night game the whole world watched, and it was a statement game for some of their superstar players to be like, hey, we're still here. Yeah, we play in one of the toughest divisions in football, but we're still here, and we're pretty freaking competitive. So yeah, it's a concerning game.
Well, let me give you one last one that matters to the Broncos, and that's the Eagles beat the Ravens 24-19. But I got a gargantuan caveat for this one. And that's Justin Tucker miss an extra point and 2 field goals. This guy is usually
got the yips.
Something weird, right?
He's got the yips.
And that Eagles defense, man, they're bend don't break. Really good team. They're 10-2. I cannot believe the Ravens are 8-5, and the Broncos could catch them. Now they lose on the tiebreaker because they lost to the head-to-head, but it sets up a really interesting situation. If the Broncos somehow could slip in front of somebody for the 6th, not the 7th seed, I just can't believe the Ravens have put themselves in that kind of position. That being said, the Eagles are really good.
Man, I was on the Nick Sirianni hot seat train for like the entire beginning of the season. They're playing as well as anybody in the National Football League right now.
Yeah,
they are. They remind me of the Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl right now. They're playing really good defense. They're finding ways to get creative with Jalen Hurts, and they got the best player in the NFL right now, and that's Saquon Barkley. But yeah, the Ravens, man, they're a hot and cold team. I mean, obviously, we saw the hottest version of the Ravens here in Broncos country. They were on fire in all facets of the game. Their offense was bad. I mean, Lamar Jackson's my starting quarterback in fantasy football, and that was not an explosive, typical day for Lamar Jackson. It's just, and I feel that on my fantasy teams, man. Like there's about 75% of the time, Lamar's going to carry my fantasy, and 25% of the time, like, what was that? Like that didn't add up. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
I've got a lot of expressions, and I've coined phrases for things. I've done all that. Do you know what one of them is that you have obviously not heard? Nobody gives a shit about your fantasy team. But I say that for everybody. I don't mean specifically you. I just mean in general. Whenever anybody starts talking about their fantasy team, I just say, well, nobody gives a shit about your fantasy team. Yeah. So I just have to.
Well, I apologize to the almighty Darren McKee. So
I just want to let you know, literally nobody.
I just got my Syracuse education of my win over Miami education about don't bring up fantasy on a live stream podcast.
I took it Newhouse. Nobody gives a shit about your fantasy team. 235. It was a lecture with a lab.
No way.
I failed it, Professor Hottenstein.
Damn German.
Okay. We'll be back in a second with our prediction for the Monday night game. Do you see yourself traveling, working part-time, or moving somewhere warmer when you retire? Beau Smith, your Colorado Edward Jones financial advisor, can make your retirement goals a reality. He can help you figure out where you are today and how to get where you expect to be. Working together, you can plan for what you want and be ready to take on anything unexpected along the way. Call him at 303-758-8500 or visit edwardjones.com/Beau-Smith to get started today. That number again, 303-758-8500. Edward Jones, member SIPC. The Nuggets, by the way, end of one against the Clippers right now, down by 9, 32-23. They're off to a
ravishing start.
They are a bad starting team, and I was at that Avalanche game, man. It's So let's focus on the Broncos. That would be the way to go. I know you're nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to sitting next to you tomorrow night for all the fun and excitement of Monday Night Football. What do you think we are going to see?
Well, my flex skill player on my fantasy team, Jerry Jeudy, and my backup quarterback, Jameis Winston, on my fantasy team. Actually, neither of them are on my fantasy team. I just thought it'd be great with utilization of that. Everybody does care about my fantasy team.
Nobody gives a shit.
But they got a hot hand quarterback right now, and he's coming off a hot hand performance, galvanizing performance. I do believe the Cleveland Browns get off to a really good start in this game. I think they're going to end up being up by two or more scores in the first half, or kind of knocking on the door of the second half. I think the Broncos are going to lose this game 31-21.
Wow, you feel that poorly about it. My goodness. Okay.
Styles make fights, and this one has me extremely nervous. And I'm not gonna be the I told you so guy. Okay. But the CU Kansas game had me really worried. And that one, because of what I'd seen in the trenches the week before against Utah and what I knew Kansas was going to try to do, which is play bully ball on both sides of the football. I worry about the amount of man coverage that both defenses play. And I do think that skill position player wise and quarterback style, I think it favors the Cleveland Browns. And so that's my concern level. And you could say, why don't the Broncos just play a ton of zone coverage? I mean, outside of a game or two, I haven't seen them play zone coverage with the kind of – they played zone against Lamar Jackson. I'll say that. That was the one game they played a heavy dose of zone, and it was ugly. So I just think this is a man-to-man team, and if Jameis Winston's able to find a few explosives early, I'm worried about it.
We get dude what
Hey man, do you want me to be a fan? Do you want me to be a fanboy, or do you want me to analyze the game?
I want you to kill us with truth. I care
well,
about.
Hey, I appreciate you, US and John. Yeah,
I care about your fantasy team. I guess I'm wrong,
but I want to be proven wrong, DMac. That's the point. I want to be proven wrong. I almost want to reverse jinx this game. I'm kind of going with that because I want this. I have put myself out there saying this is a playoff team, and I didn't realize how much Cleveland had trended in a positive direction until I watched that game against the Steelers.
Okay. I got the Broncos winning 23-13, as I just think Winston is just, I think there's going to be moments where he looks really good. I just think the best pass rush in the NFL against the worst, it's hard to say worst offensive line, but they've given up the most sacks, however you want to put it. So the team that sacks the most is going to win against the team that gives up the most sacks.
Right.
And I think it'll boil down to more along those lines than anything else, despite possibly the laser show from Bo Nix. However, I do think there's going to be moments in this game where Jerry Jeudy's going to have a moment or two. And he is going to be plenty motivated to do that. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of response he gets. But hey, man, it's fun. It's Monday night. It's weird not having a game, until Monday. But then it gets like really exciting. Like, all day it's kind of like you're all jazzed up. Yeah, man. I think we're talking weather in the clear skies and the 40s or so, which are
nothing like what we're watching right now. That's for sure.
Oh, listen, bro. I went to 50 straight of those Bills games, and yeah, most of them are earlier in the year, where the weather's just fine, but. You would get every year for the 5 years I lived there, bro. You would get 2, maybe 3 games like this one. And it's sort of fun, I guess, but I don't miss it. It's more fun to watch on TV than be part of it. So
DMac, there was an interesting moment at the opening of the broadcast for the Bills 49ers game tonight, where Syracuse alum and my favorite color or play-by-play guy in the business, Mike Tirico,
my guy,
he's amazing. He's truly incredible. He asked Chris Collinsworth, did you ever play in anything like this in your day? And he said, nothing like this.
Yeah.
He said, but the one game that I do remember was in warm-ups. It was dang near blizzard-like conditions in Denver, which I thought about. When's the last real like true snow game? Like,
man.
Does it ever happen? Is it because there's just not the lake effect?
Well, the kind of famous one is, and it was many years ago, was the overtime win against the Patriots, where CJ Anderson ran for 2 touchdowns, one to the right, one to the left, same play, just reversed. That wasn't like, I don't know, man. It was snowing, but it wasn't like
was
ridiculous.
The field covered?
Yeah, like lightly, not like this. I'm looking at this.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like this. It was kind of like a dusting. I was in 1998 of all times when I tried out for a job that I didn't get. The Raiders and the Broncos, when Tim Brown compared to why would it's the big offensive lineman caught a snowball in the eye, and Chester McLaughlin, I think, and he went into that. Was it Chester?
R.I.P. That was my friend.
You know what? I don't know. It was Lincoln Kennedy. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It was Lincoln Kennedy.
We had Lincoln Kennedy on Morning Sprint last week. He's the Raiders color analyst now.
Yeah. So he went into the stands to fight somebody because he got hit by a snowball.
He brought it up. He brought it up on the airwaves. He talked about it. He goes, I know, I had no clue about it because I have no idea what I was doing in 98.
Yeah.
I mean, I was moving. I was moving as a high school junior
from
South Bend, Indiana, back to California. So,
well, I was at that game trying to land a job, which again, I didn't get at the time. I got it later, but so I go in the locker room because I'm like, ooh, it'd be more interesting in the Raiders locker room. And it was. And then Tim Brown said, I can't believe, folks that would go through Columbine would throw snowballs. Basically said that. And I confronted him. I said, are you really comparing what happened at Columbine to snowballs? And he goes, yeah, like he didn't back down from it. And I was like, and we buried him on the air about it. 20 years later, I'm over on the Fan and he comes back on and they're booking him to be on. I go, well, listen, if he comes on, I'm going to have to ask him about this. So I said, I'm going to ask him about this if he comes back on. It's 20 years later. And they're like, okay, yeah, no problem. That's fine. And he knows about it. And okay. And I'm like, you sure? Yeah. Comes back on, defends the comment.
Wow.
Like, doesn't back down for it 20 years later. Says like, yeah, and then bum. And I was like, hey, man, I literally said this, Tim, I respect you as a football player, and you know more about that than me. But just as a human being, let me give you some life advice. You need to change your tune on that one, bro. And, it was kind of a
How did Tim Brown, Hall of Famer, Heisman Trophy winner, respond to that?
Not well, because you don't like to be, told life lessons. But his experience as a human being isn't more valuable than mine. And apparently, actually, his experience as a human being is, I guess not as sophisticated as mine if he doesn't understand why comparing getting hit by a snowball to what happened in Columbine is not even worthy of coming out of your mouth. So I'm not a big Tim Brown fan for that very specific reason. But it's funny you would bring up snow games because, I in all honesty, and somebody in the comments may recall one, but that was back in 98 and the little dusting. So it doesn't happen that often. The most famous game, Mike, of course, is just how cold it was in 2012, 2013 for the Broncos and the Ravens and Raheem Moore and the ball over his head and losing in double overtime, the year that the Broncos probably should have won the Super Bowl in Peyton Manning's first year back here. But there was no snow that day. No snow. It was just unbelievably cold. So, you know what the temperature in Buffalo is? Let me ask you how you feel about this, and then we'll wrap it up. It is snowing, but it's lake effect snow, and it's 30 degrees.
Yeah.
So, it's wet and snowy, but 30 degrees? The Broncos-Ravens game was like minus 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees, something like that. What would you rather play in, man? Would you rather have like this snow, or would you rather it just be freezing cold and no snow?
Oh, man, it's so hard. I think traction, like this game, the traction's played such a factor in it. Even some of the runs that were, 50, 60-yard runs that never happen in normal NFL game because the defense is losing traction, can't redirect. Yeah, I think as like a quarterback, I would say playing in frigid cold temperatures is preferred over this because of the timing of the pass game.
Okay.
We all know that a wet ball is not necessarily our quarterback's favorite thing here in Denver. At least from one game. We have a 1-game sample size on that. But I would say as a quarterback, I'd probably take frigid temperatures.
All right. That being said,
I have a couple little comments here. So if you scroll up, DMac, Eric Reether.
Eric Reether. Okay. I'll get him. I got him. Is this it?
Yeah. So Eric, I appreciate you listening. Love having you watch this program. The analysis was pretty in-depth about man coverage and the amount of man coverage that both the Broncos and the Browns do employ. They're both top 5 in the league in playing man coverage. And you better cover well with Jameis Winston. He's going to try to extend plays and push the ball down the field. And then conversely, seeing a ton of tight press man coverage, Bo Nix is going to have to fit some tight throws in, which I think he's capable of. This will be a great opportunity to show that he is. But that's I talked about, that was my analysis. It wasn't just, I have a bad feeling. I do believe this is a bit of one of those kind of reverse jinx games. I hope my feeling's wrong because I want this team to make good on my prediction that this is no doubt about it, a playoff team that we have right now in Denver. And if anything short of that is a failure, that's how I feel with the way that this thing's stacked up. The Browns losing, the Dolphins losing, the Colts kind of lingering, but who really are they? This is a team that has to make the playoffs this year, and different than the preseason prognosticators, but everybody changes of midstream, just like CU. They were a CFP, control your own destiny type of the team 3 weeks ago.
You want to take this one, Coach?
Sounds like Coach is doubting Bo again. I don't think that. I think that Bo Nix has feasted on zone coverage. He's done it against NFL teams. Anybody wants to point to the fact, 4 of those games are against the NFC South, which is clearly not a good. It's still NFL players with the same salary cap restrictions, maxed contracts to the point that they can. But yeah, I think that you got a different stretch of games coming up than what's behind you right now. I do believe that, and I do think that we're going to find out a lot more. We know a lot about Bo. He's awesome. He's freaking fantastic. We're going to find out a lot more about Bo, and obviously you could call it that this is bonus Bo, right? That this is better than what do you want? Denver, what do you want? Do you want a guy that's not a bust? Is that the standard? Or do you want a guy that's going to take a dominant defense and a really well-coached football team to the glory land, which is to the postseason, which you haven't been to in 9 years. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm watching, and I'm excited about.
I love it. All right. We will see you tomorrow for the morning sprint with Good Raj. I'm just getting an update, and then we'll sit next to each other and, have fun at the game itself. Nuggets making a little bit of a comeback. Very nice. Now, 40-40. They're down 43-40. So good start there to the second quarter. Let me just see real quick. Aaron Gordon is available to play, by the way. And he has played. Wow. He's played 9 minutes, 2 of 3 from the field with 5 points. So good. AG back in the mix. Like that. All right, Coach. We got plenty to talk about on Monday, starting at 10 a.m. with the morning sprint. Then I'm on with PhD with Tyler and Scott after that. Time flies by here on Altitude After Dark. So we'll wrap it up and we'll watch. By the way, the Bills have put in Mitch Trubisky because.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Fourth quarter, they put in Mitch Trubisky.
What are the Niners? Are the Niners done? Done?
I think so, man. They'll be 5-7 after tonight. Christian's obviously hurt.
I think that
Trent Williams. Trent
Williams.
That might be it for this year or his career?
For this year.
This year. Yeah, I mean,
why? The mechanism of it, I hate non-contact injuries that I hate it.
I know.
It's never good.
Trent Williams is out, right? Like, I mean, Bosa's out. Like
Montre Lamore, whatever his name is. I can't say his name.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't their year, man. It just ain't their year. They just had a lot of bad luck, and
they're getting older.
All right. Wow, we're gonna have a field goal attempt. Tyler Bass kicking in this. We'll hang in there to see if he can bang this one home. Where's this from? Wow, it's a long one. Where the hell is he kicking this one from?
Well,
10,
Melissa
20,
Stark, who is definitely my favorite sideline reporter. She's fantastic. Do you know Melissa at all?
I do not know.
She does a phenomenal job. But she said on the field, it's not windy. Like she said straight up, she's on the field. She's like, it's not windy.
Okay. Well, he missed it. All right, Coach. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks everybody for watching Altitude After Dark. Take it easy.